Carter's Ridge was the kind of town where nothing ever changed. The people stayed. The stories stayed. The secrets, those stayed too, until they didn't. At the center of it all was Sheriff Noah Grayson. Decorated, dependable, a father of 4, married 16 years, and respected by everyone from the mayor to the mailman. He wasn't just law enforcement, he was family to the community. But on an ordinary spring afternoon, Noah made a decision that would quietly begin to dismantle everything he thought he knew. He ordered a DNA test, a gift, a curiosity, something for the kids. What returned wasn't heritage or health markers. What returned was the beginning of the end. The 4 children he raised weren't his. All 4 shared a paternal match with one man, his brother, Lucas Grayson, former deputy, former best friend. Long absent from town after a silent fallout no one ever talked about. The results were clean. No errors, no second guessing. Before we go any further, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. This is only the beginning of a story that shattered a family and ended 2 lives. Noah didn't tell his wife. He didn't tell his kids. Instead, he stared at the results for hours in silence. Then he began noticing things he hadn't before. His son's jawline, his daughter's smile, little pieces of Lucas hiding in plain sight. He ordered another test. Same result. He found old letters hidden in the attic, handwritten notes from Amanda to Lucas. Words like, "You promised." Words like, "He can't find out." Amanda said nothing. Noah said less. The man who once enforced order across the county now sat quietly in his own house, surrounded by a life he hadn't actually built. And out there, less than 50 miles away, Lucas Grayson was living under a fake name in a rented cabin, waiting. Noah picked up his badge, then put it down, because next time he left the house, he wasn't going to enforce the law. He was going to end a lie. The town still saw Sheriff Grayson the way they always had, stoic, righteous, loyal. But inside the Grayson home, that image had already begun to fracture. Noah moved through the house like a stranger now. He woke before anyone else and stood alone in the hallway, staring at framed memories. Birthdays, holidays, family vacations, pictures he once loved now felt staged. Every grin, every hug, it all looked rehearsed in hindsight. He studied the shape of his children's eyes, the tilt of their noses, the subtleties you don't question when you think you're the father. And yet, now that he knew, he saw something unmistakable. Lucas, his brother's features, staring back at him from the faces he'd raised. Noah began pulling away quietly, methodically. He started sleeping on the couch, citing back pain. He let calls from Amanda go to voicemail when he was on patrol. He stopped using "we" when talking about the future. Instead, he watched, listened, searched. He began digging into the past, his own and hers, looking for holes. He remembered how Amanda and Lucas met, not through him, but at a 4th of July barbecue, months before Noah and Amanda had officially started dating. He remembered how they seemed to know each other already, how Amanda blushed when Lucas made one of his usual off-color jokes. He'd laughed at the time, shrugged it off. Now the memory made his skin crawl. Amanda was always private, but lately she was guarded. She double-checked that her phone was locked before leaving it unattended. She deleted her browser history nightly, but one night she forgot. And Noah, a man trained to notice what others miss, saw his chance. An unsent message in her drafts, addressed to L. It read, "You promised it was over. He's starting to ask questions." That was enough. Noah didn't confront her. He didn't yell. He took a walk around the block, then drove out to the edge of town and sat under the stars for hours. The truth was out now, quiet and heavy. Lucas hadn't just stolen moments. He had rewritten Noah's legacy. 4 children, 4 lives built on a lie. Noah returned home before dawn and opened the attic. It was full of old holiday bins, photo albums, in a box he'd never noticed before. Inside were letters, Amanda's handwriting, folded neatly, no envelopes. They weren't new. They dated back almost 15 years. Each one told a version of the same story. Conflict, guilt, longing, fear. One read, "You said it would stop. You said he'd leave me alone." Another, "It's your child, but I can't let him know. He'd never recover." The letter was dated the year their second child was born. Noah folded it once, then again, then placed it in his jacket pocket. The next morning, he took a personal day, first time in over 7 years. He drove to the records office in Lexington and pulled property filings under Lucas's known aliases. There it was, a short-term rental cabin in Rockwater County, rented under the name Levi Granger, a fake name Lucas had used once before. On a traffic citation Noah himself had dismissed in 2016, the signature matched. Lucas was only 47 miles away. Noah sat in his truck outside that cabin for nearly an hour. He didn't knock. Not that night. Instead, he returned home, looked Amanda in the eye and asked calmly, "Do you still love me?" She hesitated. Not long, but long enough. That night while she slept, Noah packed a duffel bag, a change of clothes, his service weapon, a pair of handcuffs, and a Bible. He left before sunrise. He didn't leave a note. He didn't say goodbye to the children because there were no more questions left to ask, only one answer, and it was waiting for him in a cabin beneath the trees. The road to Rockwater County is long, flat and quiet, lined with pine trees and farmland, stitched together by silence and fog. Sheriff Noah Grayson didn't wear his badge that morning. He wasn't there as law enforcement. He wasn't there as a brother. He drove without music, without radio, without distraction, just a small duffel bag in the passenger seat and a storm growing behind his eyes. By the time he reached Pine Hollow Cabin, the sun had risen high enough to cut through the trees, but the air still felt cold, still heavy. He parked his truck behind a row of unmarked pines and approached on foot. The cabin was modest, 2 rooms, small porch, 1 pickup parked out front. Rental records said the man inside was Levi Granger, but both men knew that was a lie. Noah didn't knock. He stood outside for almost 10 minutes, staring, gathering. And when he did finally step onto the porch, the wood creaked beneath his boots like it was holding its breath. Lucas opened the door casually, like he'd been expecting him. No words, just a nod, and then he stepped aside. Inside, the cabin was dim, sparse. A bed, a table, a half-empty bottle of whiskey, and a worn duffel bag in the corner, nearly identical to Noah's. The 2 men sat across from each other, nothing between them but a small wooden table and 15 years of unspoken truth. Noah placed the DNA test results on the table. 1 page, 4 names, 1 shared match. Lucas didn't look surprised. He didn't reach for it. He just asked one question. "How long have you known?" Noah didn't answer, because there were no answers left that mattered. Instead, he asked, "Why?" Lucas exhaled slowly, looked down, looked back up. Then he said something Noah would remember forever. "Because I could, because she let me, and because you were too blind to see it." That moment, brief, brutal, and final, was the last time either man spoke out loud that day. What happened next is still unclear. There were no witnesses, no surveillance, no neighbors, only blood and silence. What authorities later found was this: 2 bullet holes in the cabin wall, 1 shattered whiskey bottle, a trail of blood leading out back into the woods behind the porch. When police arrived, they found Lucas dead, gunshot to the chest, close range, and Noah, unconscious, bleeding from the head, his own gun still gripped in his hand. He had called 911 himself. No attempt to run, no lie to cover it, just a single sentence: "Come get me." He was airlifted to the hospital, treated for blunt force trauma, He told investigators Lucas attacked first, said he had no intention of pulling the trigger, until Lucas lunged, until they wrestled, until the gun went off. Forensics later revealed both men had gunpowder residue on their hands. It had been a struggle, not a clean execution, but still, premeditated or self-defense? That was the question. The sheriff's department recused itself from the case. State officials took over. Amanda Grayson was brought in for questioning. She denied any contact with Lucas in the past year. Investigators presented her with the text. She went silent. When asked if she ever told Lucas the children were his, she refused to answer. Noah was held in a secure medical facility during the investigation. He didn't request a lawyer, didn't speak to the press, didn't fight the temporary suspension from duty. He said only this: "I asked him to tell me the truth. He didn't, so I took it from him." The shooting at Pine Hollow Cabin made headlines by nightfall. A sheriff, a brother, a gun. By morning, the story had a name: the Grayson blood feud. Noah Grayson was suspended without pay and placed under house arrest after being released from the hospital. His badge was pulled, his firearm seized. Amanda made no statements. Reporters surrounded their home, but no one opened the door. Inside, the family that once represented strength now hid behind curtains, fractured, quiet, and afraid. DNA documents were sealed, but everyone knew the kids weren't his, they were Lucas's, all four. Public opinion split the town. Some called Noah a murderer, others called him a martyr. An emergency town meeting turned into a shouting match. "He did what any man would do," one said. "He lost control," said another. Amanda admitted to a years-long affair, claimed it ended when Lucas left town, denied telling him he was the father. Noah didn't speak to press, didn't fight the charges. When asked why he went to that cabin, he gave just one sentence: "Because lies don't confess themselves." The trial date was set, and the town would never be the same. By the time jury selection began, the town of Carter's Ridge had already taken sides. The man once seen as protector was now labeled either a monster or a martyr. Inside the courtroom, Noah Grayson sat at the defense table in a plain gray suit, clean-shaven, still, unmoved. The prosecution wasted no time. They told the jury this was not about betrayal, not about family. This was a deliberate act of violence. A man who planned a confrontation, carried a weapon, and used it to end a life. They called it revenge dressed as justice. Premeditated, avoidable. The defense told a different story. They painted a portrait of emotional collapse. 15 years of deception, a man whose entire identity had been replaced with a lie, and a confrontation that turned physical when words failed. A psychologist testified Noah displayed signs of complex trauma, disorientation, numbness, rage with no release. He was, they said, a man grieving the death of the life he thought he had, while still living inside it. Amanda was called to testify on the fourth day. She walked in slowly, no makeup, hair pinned back, no ring. She admitted the affair began before her wedding, said Lucas had manipulated her, promised to leave town after her first child was born, but never really let go. She confessed to writing the letters, to hiding the truth, to praying every day that the test would never be taken. When asked if she loved Lucas, she didn't answer, just whispered, "It was never supposed to happen." The courtroom was silent. Then came the moment that no one expected. The eldest child, Noah's 15-year-old son, stood up during a break in proceedings and quietly asked the judge if he could speak. The judge allowed it. The boy approached the stand with trembling hands, cleared his throat and said, "He raised me. He taught me how to ride a bike, to drive. He packed my lunch in second grade when my mom was sick. I don't care what the blood says. He was my father." Some in the gallery wept. Noah didn't. But for the first time, he looked up and looked directly at his son. It was the only moment of connection in a trial filled with distance. The prosecution called it manipulation. The defense called it proof of who he really was. Closing arguments lasted 3 hours. When the jury left to deliberate, the town outside waited in tension. 11 hours later, they returned, guilty but not of murder. voluntary manslaughter, 10 years in state prison, eligible for parole in 6. As the sentence was read aloud, Noah closed his eyes. Not in pain, not in peace, just the quiet resignation of a man who no longer had anything left to protect. Amanda left the courthouse with no reporters following her. No one asked her questions anymore. The children remained under the care of her sister with weekly supervised visits. Noah was taken into custody that same night. As he was led out of the courtroom in cuffs, he didn't resist. He simply paused at the threshold, turned once, and nodded to the bench where his family once sat. There were no goodbyes because there was nothing left to say. The Grayson home was sold quietly. No listing, no goodbye. Amanda left the state with her sister and the children. New names, new schools, a different life. Noah never wrote to them, never appealed, just sat in a prison cell, alone, with a Bible and silence. Lucas was buried without a service. No eulogy, no obituary. The town stopped speaking his name. Over time, Carter's Ridge tried to move on. A new sheriff was sworn in. The badge passed on, but memories remained. In whispers, in empty pews. In the eyes of 4 children who now live with questions only time can soften. One teacher remembered a moment. A student, one of Noah's, asked quietly, "Can you still love someone if they lied your whole life?" The teacher said nothing. Noah's final prison journal entry read, "I didn't lose my family. I just found out it was never mine." Before we close, be sure to like and subscribe to support more true crime stories that go deeper than headlines. Because the truth doesn't end with a verdict, sometimes it just echoes.